You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triple Double Podcast. My name is Corey Albertson of Triple Double Prospects. We've got Jason Moore of 270 Hoops here as our producer, and our guest today is Cashmere Wright. Cash, what's the word, man?
How you doing, man? I'm doing all right.
It's always good to hear from your brother. Haven't had a chance to hang out with you in some years, other than running into you at a restaurant one day. So it's a pleasure, brother.
It's a pleasure. I'm telling you. How's everything for you, man?
Man, it's all good, man. Just staying busy. We started this podcast, just trying to stay, somewhat innovative, somewhat relevant on this basketball scene, man. Just like you.
I understand that.
So, well, let me give everybody the rundown. Cashmere Wright is a former All Big East point guard with the University of Cincinnati from 2008 to 2013. Cash is the only player in Bearcat history to accumulate over 1,300 points, 475 assists, 175 steals in his career. And after finishing his playing career at UC, Cash played professionally in the Netherlands, Greece, and the NBA D-League. I had a chance to spend 3 years with Cashmere as a student manager and got to see his, maturation as a player. And, Cash, you had a great career at UC. It was always fun to watch you.
I appreciate that, man. You said all that. You made me go back. That was, damn.
I know it feels like so long ago, man. It really does.
It's been what? Since 2013. That's when I graduated. So 2012.
I graduated in 11. Yeah. Because you were a year behind me, but you had your redshirt year, so you ended up 2 years behind me. So yeah. Well, Cash joins us today. Hopefully, everyone listening today had a chance to listen to last Friday's episode. We had Youngstown State head coach Jared Calhoun on. He spoke a lot about the process of college players, freshmen, transfers, whatever, but a lot of freshmen transitioning into college basketball and just how difficult that is, some tips and whatnot. And today, Cash is going to do that for us, but he's going to do it from a player's perspective. And Cash, I want to start here. I want to start on the early side of this whole process. So you come from Georgia. You come into your last season of AAU. You're a top 100 player by all the major, internet scouting services. You're top 10 point guard nationally in your class. What was your process? The pressures of the recruiting situation. What do you remember about just the way you and your family handled all of that?
So my process was a little different. So going back to like 10th grade, and so when I first got made top 100, I committed to Clemson, and I did that back then because what I would call, I got tired of the whole recruit. I was one of those people that got tired of the recruiting process. I didn't like all the hassle and all people calling you and text you all day long. So that did that. Then I went to the top 100 camp, the NBA camp, and I met Yancey. And to me, it was about like friendship and all that separated what school I went to. So when I met him and we hit it off at the NBA camp, that kind of like pushed me toward the whole process of going to Cincinnati. Right.
And then, you go and you play your last AAU season. I remember from being there, how high up you were. You're the guy they wanted to get. Coach Davis wanted to get you. He's actually coming on the podcast next week, but he wanted to get you. Mick wanted to get you in there. And, as you finished, how was the recruiting process in terms of, as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, you're being a great basketball player, you're going to develop confidence in yourself. How hard was it to kind of just stay grounded during that process as you eventually decided, regardless, Clemson, Cincinnati, Kentucky, Ohio State, whatever, that you're going to go to a big school, especially coming from a, somewhat smaller town.
Right. It was a huge process because, you develop, not to say arrogance, but you're arrogant. But in order to be good, you have to be somewhat arrogant. But not understanding what you're finna run into when you go to college, and that was my biggest adjustment. Like, I didn't understand what it was going to be like. I thought it was just going to be like high school. You know, you work out, you know, you do this. But it's two different things. Like, it's two different worlds because you're not with your parents. Most people who go to prep school, you're not with your people who really care, you know, for say. You know, the basketball team and the basketball, you know, like y'all, like Corey and Sims and all y'all guys, y'all like the family. So then that's all you really have. And you got outsiders, you got people that's going to pull you all different types of ways. And being, you know, top 100 like I was, you know, you felt like you can do everything, you know. But then you slowly realize that being in college is two different things than being in high school in ways of like work ethic. Like, you have to work extremely hard to get to college, better yet be good in college. And then when you're out partying or out doing something else, you can believe there's somebody else doing, you know, 2 times what you could have been doing. And it's going to separate you.
And that's really what I wanted to talk about. So when you get to UC, you know, you get there in June or, you know, early summer, whatever, you've got some months to do your summer school, to start working on your body and everything, but there's no structured basketball. You know, you're in there on your own, but you hit UC at an interesting time because, you know, Mick was still new. The program was struggling. They weren't very good. So you were, you know, with Yancey coming in, yourself, a couple other guys, you guys are looked at as, you know, that's Cash, that's Yancey. They're both top 100 guys. They're going to be stars right away. And, you know, you've got a lot of people, you know, outside of the basketball program in your ear. You've got, you know, girls, you know, want to meet you. You've got the party. And I mean, you're not that type of dude. And, you know, but still, you're on, like you said, you're on your own for the first time. You want to see the city. You want to, you know, make friends and everything. And, you know, how hard is it just to focus on basketball when you first get to college? And, you know, when you yourself, you know, if you had a day where you took your eye off of basketball, you know, what were kind of the ramifications of that?
Like, for instance, you have people that know that develop very young age, like consistency. And that's what separates you once you get to college. Like, you have to remember that there's nothing really changed. You know, you're going to have so much freedom that you didn't have in high school, and it's going to be so many more people, like people coming up to you all the time. So you're going to feel like a star. But in reality, it's kind of like, you know, it's fake, because all that's doing is pushing you further away from the gym. And when you do that's when all the bad things happen. That's when you figure out that somebody's in the gym and getting better than you. And that's the stuff that happened to you. But, you know, it's what I tell people now is you just got to remember your value, remember what got you there. And most people, if you can remember that, then, you know, you're going to stay grounded and keep your mind focused on what you got to do. And remember that, you know, it's all the fun and everything that you can have in college, it's going to be time for that. But you get one opportunity at having a scholarship to go to college, and one opportunity to make it pros, one opportunity to be an All-American. You know, people take that stuff for granted and take that time for granted.
And just like that, I mean, people are trying to come at you. People are trying to, you know, take your spot. And I mean, like, I remember when I was a freshman, we're getting ready to play a game, and your boy, the Chief, had me hop in the car with him. We would go to the airport. He's like, we got to pick up the future. And I was like, who is the future? And we get to the airport, and you hopped off the plane and got in the car, and you were coming for your official visit and whatnot. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, man, this guy is like an inch taller than me, and he's skinny as can be. I'm like, but, you know, obviously the pressure's on you from the beginning. And, you know, I can't imagine, you know, they go through that. And obviously at Kentucky or Duke, but, you know, schools just like Cincinnati, Xavier, Ohio State as well, you know, just you've had people your whole life telling you how good you are. Then now you've got to get in a situation where, you know, unlike in high school, for the first time in your life, you've got to compete your ass off just to be able to get playing time in the game.
Compete. Like, that was the easy part, competing. Like, it was the fact of, like, learning basketball, of how Coach Cronin wanted you to play, and understanding that my way of what I thought was competing was not competing. Like, some people believe, when you come out of high school, that level of play, I don't care which level you play, once you get to college, it's two different levels that you have to compete at. And developing that consistency of learning, how to compete, how to get better every day is really the most important part of, college or anything.
Sure. And then, I mean, it goes in a couple different facets. And a future podcast guest who I really want to get, our producer Jason here is a big Ohio State football guy, so I want to get Dave Andrews on the podcast eventually, and just to, I know, right, and just to talk about just kind of what goes into the college weight program. But Dave Andrews was just a great person, but an insane person, and what he did for you guys to change your bodies. I mean, you guys get there. School starts in the fall, real school, not summer school. And, you got September, you got individual workouts with the coaches, but then you've also got, the biggest transformation you've ever had physically, especially you coming in as a skinnier guy, starting to put muscle on. Then October rolls around and practice starts. And I mean, coming out of high school, just how much of a culture shock was there? Just the demand of practice, not just one practice, but day in and day out, how difficult practice is going to be.
It's one of those things where, it can literally break you mentally, because coming from high school, like, you don't understand, like, how much work people play. I mean, how much work you have to actually do before you can put the uniform on and actually go out there and play. The summers when there's just no coaches involved, but you still got open gyms. You still got mandatory weights, you got conditioning, and you got to go to school for the first time without your parents making you go to school. You got to make good decisions. It's tough, and it's a tough thing to juggle if you're not mentally prepared.
Mm-hmm. And then you talked about, basketball. You talked about one of the tough things, and we talked about this with Coach Calhoun when we had him on, which is just the information overflow of college basketball, where, in high school, and you guys probably played one or two defenses. You guys probably had a lot of plays which were like, well, Cashmere gets a pick and roll, or, Cashmere gets an isolation and we go, or we play off a couple things. But just the amount of structure and all that, I think, is one of the things. But just from a strict basketball perspective, as a freshman early on in your career, what are some of the things that you think you struggled with adjusting to?
I struggle with realizing why plays work. Like, why are we running this play? Was it because, when I was playing before, if we ran a pick and roll, I knew we run a pick and roll. If I come off and I'm open, shoot the ball. If not, pass the ball to the roller or the popper. Not understanding, when I got to college, I realized if I'm running a pick and roll, it's not for me nor the roller. Maybe it's for the guy on the other side. And we're just running this action to move the defense. And it was just like small things like that you have to pick up on fast, that the upperclassmen is trying to teach you, and you're not really grasping of understanding the X's and O's of basketball, trying to move people, trying to get different switches, trying to figure out why we want this matchup, who should shoot the ball, what's the highest percentage. It became more than just tip the ball up, read the scouting report, and play basketball. And that's the part that, it's another part of basketball that people don't pay attention to. But the ones that are really, really good are really good at developing that skill and learning.
And I mean, it has to be meticulous. And then for the first time, you're being asked to play a role, whereas, you're used to being the ball dominant guard, and, now you're still the point guard, but you're playing a role. And then even more so, at that time, Cincinnati is in the Big East, and you're playing against a guy every single night, damn near, who was on somebody's draft board.
Exactly. That's the main part. And then nobody, Cincinnati, the fans, they don't really care who the other guy is. Yeah, they see him and yeah, they know him, but they're expecting their guy to go out there and compete and not make mistakes and do what you're supposed to do. because at the end of the day, that's what we came here to do.
Right. I mean, I just remember from my
that,
days.
That in itself was another whole pressure situation.
Mm-hmm. I remember from my days just, thinking like, man, like, having being a freshman the year before you got there, like thinking our guys are so, so good. And then, we play UConn and I see Kemba Walker and I'm like, oh my God. And, man, I'm struggling. Johnny Flynn. I mean, so many Edgar Sosa, so many guys that were in the conference that were such good players. But, I want to talk about kind of the mental aspect because you had a different journey in that, you came in, you were so highly recruited, you were supposed to be the face. And then, a couple practices in, you blew your knee out, you had your first injury. How mentally hard is it, for the first time to have to sit out and then just go through that college process where you're on your own and, now you've got this injury to deal with?
That was probably one of the toughest situations I've ever experienced in life, because I went from a child that, growing up, I always had my own experiences. I got cut when I was 8th grade and made it top 100 by 10th grade. So in 2 years span, I did all that. So, it was a road anyway, but to get there and to feel like, I'm in the Big East, I'm going to be playing Johnny Flynn, I'm going to be playing all the top guys, and I'm going to get a chance to show off my talent that, that I brought in Cincinnati. And for it to be taken away from me in not many practices, it was the first practice and the last drill of the first practice of a two-a-day. So, that right there is, it was devastating, but it also taught me a lesson that, things happen, but that don't mean that you give up. That don't mean that you stop. It just means that it's just some obstacle in the way, and your goal is still achievable as long as you don't strive for it.
Right. And I mean, you coming in, you've got a culture shock just like any freshman has. Yancey coming in, Yancey's in an even more pressure-filled situation than you because he's so big. He's from, he's from Cincinnati. So the pressure's on Yancey already huge. And, everybody in Cincinnati, for what it's worth, thought they knew everything and wanted to tell you this and that about the way Yancey plays. So I was telling Jason the story of, I remember that first, I thought you got hurt like the second or third practice. I guess I don't remember it that well. But I remember the first practice where, Mick is so quietly excited. He's going after you guys in practice, getting you guys to compete. But then all the managers, the assistant coaches, the training staff, Dave, everybody's just kind of walking around whispering each other's ear like, shit, this is way better than last year in terms of the talent on the court, having brought in you and Ibrahima and Dion and Yancey and all those guys. And then at the end of the practice, it's like you and Yancey were in real quick. Like, I forget what happened. You guys had one thing that didn't go your way. You guys start fussing with each other. And before you know, Mick is yelling at us, wash their jersey red and white together to make it pink. They're so soft, this and that. I mean, you guys really, right? I'm talking about right away. You guys just had that shock. Like, this is how it's going to be. And, that's how it is, I think, with a lot of freshmen is, you go through your recruiting process and you make a personal connection to that coach, and that's great. And that coach tells you, hey, I'm going to push you harder than you've ever been pushed. And that sounds great. But when you first get out there, you have that kind of come to Jesus moment where you realize, like, this coach has to coach me, get the most out of me because it impacts his family's livelihood because he's got to pay his bills from his coaching job.
I mean, like, looking back at that, though, like, we had a conversation with Cronin, and it was more so like we felt like we was not better than the rest of people, but we was different, and we was trying to set a different type of like aura around that team. So we didn't want it to feel like it was so much Coach Cronin's team. We wanted it to be our team, and that was our beef. We wanted more hoorah for the team and him to let us actually, be a team and be players versus on us all the time. You know how he gets sometimes.
And that's not his personality and everything, especially with you guys being young and guys like Deontay.
Nah, he wasn't going, not at all.
But it's interesting, and that's kind of the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you being the point guard, obviously you have to be one of the leaders of the team. And I no one loves Yancey personally more than me, but Yancey sometimes needs a little kick in the ass to get going, especially when he was younger. So people quickly start to say, well, Cash is the point guard, he's the next guy here. Along with Deontay Vaughn, he's got to be so good. So we need him to be a leader. And a lot of people, when they face that adversity nowadays, I feel like are so quick to transfer. And because of you getting hurt, you end up getting through 5 years at UC. You guys get better and better every year. You make a couple NCAA tournaments, you fight through it, you become a leader. And for guys who don't know you personally, you have leadership ability, but you're not necessarily a scream in somebody's face guy. You're more of a have a conversation guy. So, with Mick being that, mega personality, in your face type of guy, and how did you develop into a leader throughout your time at UC?
I think it kind of like it meshed, like we meshed, because he was more scream, but I could talk to you, like I understood what he was saying through the yelling, because growing up, that's how I grew up, yelling, loud yelling. So I understood what he was telling me. I understood the direction, even though the team may have not understood what he was saying, because he was yelling, everybody upset. But I can pull you to the side and explain to you verbatim the details of what he wants. And that's why we work. So when we're on the court and he's yelling, everybody's looking at me because I'm controlling him. I'm making sure that everybody understands exactly what he means. And when he does just yelling at me, and, it's cool. I'm cool with that. And I've learned you got to have tough skin. And I was all good with being yelled at personally.
So you became kind of that calming influence, because when you play in the Big East, you play at Louisville, you play out of conference, you play at Xavier. What's another good one for the Big East? You play at Pittsburgh. Yeah, and I mean, all that yelling is great. It gets you in the best place as a coaching standpoint, but then you still need a player on the team who can kind of be like, all right, guys, we've been here before. This is what we got to do. And that's kind of the role, even, when some of the guys, the Bearcat guys know, Sean Kilpatrick and stuff, but those guys came later and you were kind of the voice.
Right. I mean, like I say, leadership is different ways. Like some people yell, some people actually are good at just having a conversation and getting the point across of what we need done and what's the job, what's the detail. And I think I'm more of a leader that way than, yelling and all that other stuff.
Okay. Well, the last two things I want to ask you in terms of college basketball are this. I mean, looking back now, how much do you value, just as what you become as a person, your relationship with like Coach Cronin and then, just the whole coaching staff and what they did for you?
Well, looking back, like they taught me about, they just taught me about teamwork. They taught me how to work hard. They taught me, everything won't go your way. Like I say, the ACL, but also know that they had my back, and he didn't, most college coaches would have recruited over you when things like that happen, but he didn't. He gave me a chance. He gave me an opportunity to actually, earn my position and come out as a freshman coming off ACL surgery and playing. So that meant a lot. And right now he's still helping me and looking after me. He's one of my references and one of the people I talk to if I need help. So, I always, have respect for all those guys over there.
Well, I mean, I got respect for you, for Deontay, for Yancey, for John Williamson, for, some of those guys. I remember when I was a freshman manager, Chris Goggin told me, he said, what I'm going to appreciate about you guys as managers looking back is we're taking over a program after Hugs, after Andy Kennedy. Coach comes in and the program's in such disarray. There's so many problems and they're trying to build it back. And the point of that was that there's not a lot of guys that want to be here. Is you got to have guys who are going to buy in to be part of the rebuild. And, we did that as managers, but I mean, what you guys had to do as players to go out in the Big East and do that, I mean, I think is even is much, much more amazing. And I mean, because of that, I mean, just talk about, for people out here who want to get to Division I basketball, I mean, just the brotherhood that you have with guys like, with SK, with Lance Stevenson, with Deontay Vaughn, with Yancey Gates, with Deion Dixon. I mean, all those guys.
I mean, that's one of the best experience you probably ever have. Like having people from all across the world, the United States, the world. You ask Thomas and Shaq, just the develop relationships you probably won't ever forget. Like I still talk to those people till the day. And, you always bring up old memories and things you did and things that happened. It's like something that, that if you get the chance to do that, like it's probably something you won't ever forget. And you probably always cherish no matter what happens.
Okay. Well, the last thing I want to talk to you about is, tell us what you're doing now. I know you're doing this One Vision basketball. I mean, go ahead and plug what you're working on.
Okay, so I got One Vision Academy, which is a training program, and we are linked with the Ohio Ball Stars AAU program. And right now I will be coaching the 11th grade team for the Ohio Ball Stars. And I coach at Clark Montessori High School.
Oh, I didn't know that, with Wally Vickers, my man.
Yeah, Wally.
Okay, good deal, man. We'll definitely be on the lookout for One Vision. Well, Cash, man, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, guys, that was Cashmere Wright, former All Big East point guard, University of Cincinnati. For Jason Moore, our producer, my name's Corey Albertson. Learned a lot again today. Follow up to last week's episode just about how freshmen adapt to college basketball. And thank you again to Cash, and thanks for listening, guys. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.